Most people spend their entire lives running from one thing. Not failure. Not death. Not even pain. They spend their lives running from themselves. From the version of themselves that gets angry over nothing. That panics at the first sign of discomfort. That scrolls endlessly at midnight looking for something, anything, to fill the silence. Here is what no one tells you. That restlessness you feel? That low hum of anxiety that never fully disappears? It is not a glitch in your character. It is not weakness. It is a signal. A signal that you have been living reactively, at the mercy of every feeling, every opinion, every external event, instead of living with intention. 2,000 years ago, a man who was once a slave looked at the chaos of the Roman Empire and the chaos inside human hearts and said something that still cuts through the noise today. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. His name was Epictetus. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing in the world around him. And yet he was the freest man alive. This is warrior philosophy. And today we explore 7 Stoic rules that, if you truly internalize them, will change the way you think, the way you react, and the person you become. We are living in the age of reaction. Every platform you open is engineered, deliberately, scientifically, to provoke you, to make you angry, to make you afraid, to make you feel like you are not enough without this product, this status, this approval. And slowly, quietly, without most people ever noticing, their minds become someone else's property. They wake up anxious. They go to sleep overstimulated. They make decisions not from clarity but from fear. Not from values, but from the desperate need to avoid embarrassment or earn the respect of people whose names they won't remember in 10 years. The psychologists call this external locus of control, the belief that your emotional state is dictated by what happens to you, rather than what you choose to think and feel. The Stoics called it living in chains. And the tragedy is not that people suffer. Suffering is ancient. It is human. The tragedy is that people suffer unconsciously, without ever asking the question that changes everything. What is actually within my control? Rule 1. Separate what you can control from what you cannot. This is the foundation. The bedrock. Without this, nothing else works. Epictetus built his entire philosophy around one idea, the dichotomy of control. There are things in our power, our thoughts, our judgments, our intentions, our responses. And there are things not in our power, other people's behavior, the economy, our reputation, the weather, the past. Most human suffering, not all but most, comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled and ignoring the only thing that can be, yourself. The person who panics at a job rejection is not suffering because of the rejection. They are suffering because they made their peace of mind conditional on something outside themselves. The Stoic does not say, "Nothing will hurt me." The Stoic says, "I will not surrender my inner state to what I cannot control." There is profound power in that distinction. Practice this today. When something disturbs you, ask, "Is this in my control?" If yes, act. If no, release. It sounds simple. It is the hardest thing you will ever do. And it will set you free. Rule 2. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of them. Here is something modern psychology and ancient Stoicism agree on completely. You are not your emotions. You are the one watching them. When Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, emperor of Rome, sat alone at dawn writing in his journal, he was not performing for anyone. He was doing the most radical thing imaginable for a man of his power. He was examining himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Emotions are not commands. They are information. They arise, they pass, like weather moving through a landscape. The sky is not the storm. And you are not your anger, your anxiety, or your despair. The moment you can observe a feeling without immediately becoming it, you reclaim your freedom. This is what neuroscientists call affect labeling. The simple act of naming an emotion, "I feel angry," instead of living inside it, "I am angry," creates psychological distance that weakens the emotion's grip. The Stoics called it prosoche. Attention to the self. Watchfulness over your own inner world. Develop the habit of the observer. When emotion rises, pause. Name it. Ask, is this reaction useful? Is it true? Does it serve who I am trying to become? Most of the time it will not. And in that moment of seeing clearly, you choose something higher. Rule 3. Voluntary discomfort is the training ground of the soul. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. And yet, regularly, deliberately, he would live for short periods as if he had nothing. Coarse food. Simple clothing. Physical hardship. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he understood something the modern world has almost entirely forgotten. Comfort is a trap. It is not the man who has too little, he wrote, but the man who craves more, who is poor. There is a psychological phenomenon called hedonic adaptation, the brain's tendency to normalize pleasure. Whatever you have, you quickly adapt to and need more of just to feel the same. The bigger house, the newer car, the higher salary, it never satisfies because satisfaction was never the destination. The destination was always more. Voluntary discomfort is the antidote. When you deliberately choose the harder path, the cold shower, the fasted morning, the difficult conversation you keep avoiding, you are not punishing yourself. You are reminding yourself that you are capable of more than comfort allows. You are expanding your tolerance. Building what the Stoics called apatheia, not apathy but the freedom from being ruled by craving or aversion. The rule is simple: do one hard thing daily that you do not have to do. Not to prove yourself to anyone, but to prove it to yourself. Because discipline is not something you have, it is something you practice. Rule 4. Think about death so you can finally start living. This one makes people uncomfortable. Good. The Stoics had a practice called memento mori, remember that you will die. Not as a morbid obsession, but as a clarifying lens. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to live. While you have time, while you still can, make yourself good." Modern psychology has confirmed what the Stoics knew intuitively: the people who think most clearly about death are not depressed. They are liberated. When you sit with the reality that all of this, is temporary, something extraordinary happens. The petty arguments lose their urgency. The need for external validation shrinks. The question you keep delaying, am I living the life I actually want? Suddenly demands an answer. The Stoic does not wait for a crisis to be awakened. Begin tonight. Sit in silence for 10 minutes and ask yourself, if this were my last year, what would I stop tolerating? What would I finally begin? Let the answer rearrange your priorities. Rule 5. Never seek applause for being good. We live in a world built on performance. People post their charity work. They broadcast their struggles. They document their discipline. And somewhere in that documentation, the act itself, the doing of the thing, quietly becomes secondary to the being seen doing it. Marcus Aurelius, who could have used his vast power to build monuments to himself, wrote this private warning, to no one but himself. Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. Virtue, to the Stoics, was not an audience sport. The psychology here runs deep. When we seek external validation for internal acts, we outsource our self-worth. We become dependent. And dependency is not freedom, it is a softer kind of slavery. The rule is not to become cold or disconnected. It is to practice what psychologists call intrinsic motivation, doing the right thing because it is right, not because it will be rewarded. Ask yourself honestly, would you behave the same way if no one was watching? That answer tells you more about your character than any performance ever could. True virtue is practiced in the shadows. The warrior does not need a crowd. The act is enough. Rule 6. Every obstacle is the path. There is a line from Marcus Aurelius so precise, so devastatingly clear, that it deserves to be read slowly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that again. Not, what stands in the way must be removed. Not, what stands in the way should be mourned. What stands in the way becomes the way. Modern psychology speaks of post-traumatic growth, the documented phenomenon where individuals, after profound difficulty, emerge not merely recovered but transformed, stronger, wiser, more alive than before. The Stoics built this understanding into their worldview thousands of years before the research existed. Obstacles are not interruptions to the journey. They are the journey. The relationship that fails teaches you about your patterns. The business that collapses reveals what you truly value. The illness strips away the inessential and shows you what remains. When the next obstacle comes, and it will come, do not ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this making possible? What is this teaching me? How can I use this? The shift from victim to student, that is the Stoic transformation. That is where strength is forged. Rule 7. Become the person you were meant to be without apology. Epictetus wrote, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Decide. Then act. Most people live their entire lives inside a gap, between the person they sense they could become and the person they allow themselves to be. And in that gap lives regret. Lives resentment. Lives the slow erosion of the soul. The world will pressure you to shrink, to conform, to silence the part of you that knows there is something more. You will be told to be realistic, practical, to manage your expectations. The Stoics offer a different instruction. Know who you are and refuse to be less. This is not arrogance. The Stoics were ruthlessly humble about their flaws, their biases, their limitations. But they believed, with absolute conviction, that the highest calling of a human life was the development of virtue, of character, of excellence not in outcome but in effort and integrity. You may not control whether you succeed. You may not control how long you live or whether you are recognized or whether history remembers your name. But you control, fully, completely, at every moment, whether you act in alignment with the person you know yourself to be. That is enough. That has always been enough. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still woke before dawn to remind himself that he was mortal, that his mind was the only kingdom that truly mattered. That virtue was not a destination but a daily practice, renewed every morning, tested every hour. Epictetus lived in chains and was freer than the men who owned him. Seneca sat at the height of Roman power and wrote letters about the shortness of life, urging a friend, urging us, not to waste another hour living by someone else's definition of a life worth living. These were not perfect men. They were not finished men. They were practicing men. And so are you. The question Stoicism asks is not, are you strong enough? The question is, are you willing to begin? To separate what you can control from what you cannot. To observe your emotions instead of becoming them. To choose difficulty. To remember death. To act without applause. To find the path through the obstacle. To become, without apology, the person you were made to be. 7 rules. Not commandments handed down from the heavens. Principles forged in fire, by men who faced war, exile, loss, illness, and the full weight of human imperfection, and chose again and again to rise. That choice belongs to you now. What will you do with it? If something in this resonated, if even one of these rules landed somewhere real, then you already understand why this work matters. Warrior philosophy exists for one reason: to give serious people the tools of serious minds. Stoicism. Human psychology. The philosophy of self-mastery. Not theory for the sake of theory, but wisdom you can carry into Monday morning. Into the difficult conversation. Into the moment when everything in you wants to react and something deeper says, wait. If that is the life you are building, subscribe. Join this community. Because the ancient wisdom has not expired. It has simply been waiting for you to find it. This is warrior philosophy. The work continues.